Have you ever wondered why you react in a particular way to something you hear or something you see, maybe a social media post, or the way that some don't understand why somebody views something in a particular way? My brain tells me what? I'm going to talk to you today about how it is our brain is potentially sabotaging our careers or our life balance. And this is through something which is called a cognitive bias. Now, no, it's not catching, but it is something that we all have. Now, how cognitive bias comes about is it sits in our subconscious brain. And our subconscious brain actually gets all its influences and builds this bias up through things like the culture that we're brought up in, so whereabouts in the world that we may be, and the influences that come from that culture, from the interactions that happen with us when we're children, and the influences that we have throughout our lives. So, for example, I'm a young Aussie that actually ended up traveling around the world, so this all has an impact on some of the things that sit in my subconscious brain and my biases. But where it really starts is when you're a kid. So the influences of our parents, our teachers, the activities we undertake, how people react to things that we do, the learning that we have, all of this starts to build up in our subconscious brain with a picture or an image of how things should be or what things should be done, which is part of the reason why we act in certain ways to particular people, or the way people look, or how we hear them, or things that we actually hear. So let's look at a very simple example. So I'm a little kid, I come home one day, I've actually got a medal, and it's like, Mom, look at this. Now, I may have come last in the race, it's just a participation medal, but if my mum's really cool and she goes, oh, darling, that's lovely, that's wonderful. Now, maybe what gets logged into my brain is the fact that, oh, if I try as hard as I can and actually put in the effort, then I'll be loved for what my efforts are. However, if I get a negative reaction, what may potentially log into my brain is I can only get love if I come first. It depends on how those reactions are. And this is, as I said, this is a fairly simplistic reaction. Now, what happens there is, because as a child, my brain is like a sponge, this is actually logged into my subconscious brain, as I was saying. Now, my brain is actually made up of two components. I have my conscious brain. This is where I'm actually conscious of the actions, reactions, and the way that I do things. And I can call this my captain, because it's effectively steering my ship, or my brain. Now, but I also have my subconscious brain, which is where my unconscious biases sit. So, for example, without meaning to, I might actually assume that a certain thing needs to happen in a certain way. This potentially sits in my subconscious brain. Now, what happens is, for example, when we ask young school children about what images need to a doctor would be, or who would be a surgeon, or who is a policeman, or whatever, the images that they see as kids create the biases that then tell them that maybe someone who's in the police is a man, or a surgeon is a man, or that a woman is a secretary, because of the images that they've seen. These create unconscious biases, and it's the reason why we look at things in this way rather than them actually being in this particular way. And we can actually change that, but that's all going to be part of a totally different video. So if you want to find out more about unconscious bias, then actually have a look at my website, megsinspires.com, and I'll talk to you more about subconscious bias at some time.